In the time before the Titans, before the gods of Olympus, a great battle was waged.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my God of War Ascension Titan difficulty video walkthrough. This is the passage to Delphi, and this is a chest that we can now rebuild thanks to the passage of time and this piece of equipment that I have no idea what it's called, because I wasn't paying any attention when I played the game, mainly because I was trying to do it so quickly so that I could get this guide up. And there are detriments to that, i.e. I haven't committed the name to memory, but at the same time, did I have fun while I was playing? God damn, I did, and I've done nothing but play this game for 2 days solid, so I think that's value for money, regardless of my inability to remember the names of some of the items. And that is another magic upgrade just there, thanks to the Phoenix Feathers, which I think the Phoenix Feathers and the Gorgonized on this game have been the easiest to find of any God of War, because I've never had such ease in maxing out my life. Like on God of War 1, I don't think I did max my life out on my first playthrough, because I just wasn't used to the camera trickery and the tools that the game uses to hide things. But every game since then I've been fine, but I do think that this one was significantly easier to get them. That might just be me though. So this is when we begin to do some backtracking, and when you say backtracking in a game, everybody immediately gets quite negative with it. It's usually a negative connotation. They usually throw around games like Halo, because Halo was notorious for making you go back through levels you'd already beat. But on this game, I think it works really well, because it blends into the narrative, which is told in retrospect at certain points, and also you go back with items you didn't have before. And it's called the Armlet of Ouroboros, or Ouroboros as I used to call it, which, if you don't know, is the two serpents eating each other perpetually. It's also the word that Wesker kept saying on Resident Evil 5 in between his ridiculous pronunciation of Chris. Crash. God damn Wesker. I wish he'd have showed up in Resi 6 and salvaged that bag of dick game, because it was just bad. This fight right here is only tricky because these guys who we've been throwing around the entire game now have armor that you have to break before you can throw them. So the quickest way to break the armor is to perfect parry them and do the riposte. You can probably throw stuff at them which will break it too. You can use your magic, that will break it too. It's all preference. As I've already mentioned, I only really use magic when it's a necessity, when I can't, when I'm either struggling, when I'm in a fight that I find annoying, or when I legitimately need it as part of a tactic to do a particularly difficult wave. That's my mentality, and I think it should be yours too. And this is not me telling you how to play. I just believe if you rely on magic too much, you never get used to fighting, and you never get better at fighting. So the best thing to do is, try your best without your magic to see how far you can get. Keep on trying, and just as it gets to that point where it's a little bit frustrating and you want to quit, then use your magic, because chances are you will perform so well that by the time you use your magic, everything will be dead, and you'll have improved as a player, and the encounters to come will be easier than the ones you've done, because you've just, you've increased, your player skill has progressed. But this is what the armlet allows us to do. It's a fancy way of saying this is a Lego game and we're rebuilding things super quickly, which is totally what that reminds me of. It just doesn't have the cheeky noise of all the blocks coming together. And I always wonder how they do that stuff. Like, is that a preset animation? Has somebody animated each parts of that, individually, or have they just hit record and applied physics to scenery that had a fault in it, a flaw that made it collapse? And do they just record it and then reverse it, and they've got it as a loop? Then they've got all the coordinates and all the animation keyframes and everything. I've always wondered, because if that is individually animated by a bunch of dudes, those people are just insane. And I hope it's not, just for the sake of tedium, because if anybody here has dabbled with animation, especially 3D animation, unless you have a massive passion for it, it is extremely laborious. And it's one of those things where you either love it or you don't. And I've done my fair share of it and I don't mind it, but I'm talking animating a guy's mouth to go up and down. No nuance, no curvature of the lip, just up and down. Now imagine every piece of rubble and debris that's got to go up in a certain pattern to fit and interconnect into a piece of architecture. That is insane. It just blows my mind. And as much as I do criticise games, I am notorious for criticising them because I'm extremely hard to please, and I don't, you know, care if people don't enjoy a critique of a game, because there's this thing where just because a game is great doesn't mean it doesn't have problems, and the problems in today's games are often much more enjoyable to discuss and debate than the good things, because the good things are so prevalent, they're so obvious. And we live in this internet culture where people think just because you're saying something that can be perceived as negative towards something, that it is, and that is not the case. There's something known as objectivity, and these people aren't mature enough to spot it, so they just think that you're complaining, when it's not intended to complain, it's an observation. And I do think that's a shame, because there used to be a time where people didn't accuse you of crying just because you had a strong opinion on something, you know. I think we've definitely lost something in the context there, and I think it stems mostly from stupid people, but the world's full of those, and there's nothing anybody can do about that. But there's the save point. We've just rebuilt this aqueduct looking thing, and if you look directly forward, there's some secret chests that the camera tries to hide on the transition, and we're moving back into the cistern, which is probably a different chapter once again, but the way that I've structured this is slightly incorrect. Thank you, GameFAQs. And there is another bunch of Gorgon eyes. So, I haven't played God of War for a while, but is the life smaller on this one? Because I think the life is smaller. I know it's always been kind of small, and it's always been in that blade thing. It's just gone through a different aesthetical look. Oh, this was funny. I was holding the right analog there to roll and tapping X, and because my hands got comfortable because I was doing it for so long, I thought I was holding the correct analog to move, so I just kept rolling towards the side. And actually got quite angry at Kratos for not doing what I was supposed to be doing, and it turned out I was pressing the wrong buttons completely. And unfortunately there are... Did you see that just then? What the fuck was that? I wonder if this is the fight where it happens, where I break a dog's neck and the dog is just fine. Dogs like those dudes off a 6th Day who were all clones, so they just go and fix them up. But, as I was going to say, unfortunately there are parts of this game where the input was completely broken and it's wrong. And I don't know what does it, I don't know what is the trigger, but I found when I was holding the left trigger and pressing triangle, he would do the square move, he would do the Ouroboros move, as opposed to the Octorok move, or whatever he's called, that guy. Can't remember his name, it's just completely gone. And another thing that's quite misleading too, which I've not mentioned, in the top left when you're watching your abilities respawn, even when they fill up, they aren't ready to be used, you have to wait for them to glow. And it's really misleading, because as soon as you see it fill up, you try to use it and Kratos doesn't move. And it puts you in a position where you're vulnerable, and on Titan, you will get beat up, you'll get grabbed, all sorts of stuff happens. You know, if you're coming off a Ninja Gaiden, Master Ninja, to this mode, you'll probably think these enemies are the kindest you've ever met, but it can still be dangerous. And I love this enemy. I have no idea what his name is. To me, he's just the, you know, the goat guy that I beat up. And he's so fun to fight because he's easy to parry, you can block everything he does, and he can launch him very easily. And that's just cruel at that point, taking his poor legs. But there we go. No idea what that is over the doorway. I much preferred the scary face off of 2. But I think that might have been something to do with the Sisters of Fate, I think they were called. Which there's a bit of a correlation between the Furies and the Sisters of Fate, which I think is interesting. And it's funny because a lot of the reviews are criticising the fact that they've run out of mythology and they're coming to the characters that are lesser known. But I think that's cooler, because don't get me wrong, the main gods and everything are all good and well, but you know, when you're actually learning something, I know it's extremely, it's almost satirical in its approach, because it's not, you know, exclusively the way that the history or the mythology is told, but it's close enough that you hear these names of people you don't really know, you see the purpose that they portray on this game, or the kind of character they are, then you look them up, and there are parallels, and you've learned something. As opposed to, who doesn't know who Zeus is? And if you say it's who Samuel L. Jackson played in Die Hard 3, then you're a genius, and I love you. This fight here, though, if you throw whatever you're carrying at this guy, you can immediately climb him. Then you can use him to smash the bugs. And just continue to bang his face and what have you, and then you can just do some combos. There's me freezing him. Do not underestimate how useful that Ouroboros amulet is. It is so good. If you're up against sirens, freeze one, fight the other. It's great, and it's going to be so useful. Like, oh, upgrade it as soon as possible. But I'm focusing on my blades, so it takes me a while. And it's the same when you get the clone. The clone of Kratos, I have no idea. It wouldn't surprise me if it got patched. It's that good. Like, I was doing a fight with the elephants, which I think are called Juggernauts, I'm not too sure. They might be the hammer guys. My naming convention on this game is just not there yet. But I was on the fight, which I think is the hardest non-Trial of Archimedes fight in the game on Titan, which is 2 elephant guys. Actually, it's 4 elephant guys, and it's a shit ton of the bowler, shield, just spammy, standard goat people. And I used one fully leveled up, it's only got 2 levels, Kratos clone, and it put one of the elephants to executable. It had the red thing above his head, and I didn't even attack it once. It was all the clone. And if that's not telling you that that is powerful, you know, I don't know what is. So good. But I tell you what I would like to see with this game. Every time you hit somebody with your blades, I'd like to see damage on the models. I wouldn't want it to be too over the top, but it'd be nice if they got scuffs and cuts and things, because I think we've got to the point where the technology is not going to get much better as far as visuals go. You know, I think loading might be quicker as the processing and the RAM gets up, and obviously just the high-res textures will be better, there'll be less popping, there'll be better draw distance and all that stuff. But as far as looking absolutely amazing, I don't think it's going to be the big jump that it was before. So what I'm looking for is detail. I'm looking for destructible environments, I'm looking for better engines. You know, that's what I'm hoping from the next gen. Although all we're probably going to get is more bloody sequels. And I realised the other day how many sequels there are. It's obnoxious. It's so obnoxious. I just thought to myself, of all the games I've been excited for this year, have all been sequels. Every single one of them. And I couldn't believe it. I almost had this epiphany moment where all they're doing is making the same games. And a lot of my friends are actually getting gaming fatigue, and they don't really know why. The games are solid that they're playing, but it's just not the same. And I didn't really know what was wrong. And then it just dawned on me. There's no new stuff. It's all sequels. And if you're invested in a series, it's fine. But at the same time, it's sanding an hourglass of your patience until you burn out on that series. And it happens to the best of us, man. Like, I never thought I would stop playing Assassin's Creed, but I don't think I'm going near Black Flag because I cannot be arsed. It just does nothing for me. And for people, Call of Duty's been dead for years for some folk. You know, Halo might go the same way if 343 or whatever they're called end up just putting out another one that's the same as the one they just did. Battlefield are already on about Battlefield 4. And I'm sorry guys, but I was disappointed with Battlefield 3. I think you should take your time and make a fantastic game. You don't have to do this annual bullshit. You don't have to feed into this money machine. And the sad part is, they do. Like, creatively, it's probably the last thing they want, but at the end of the day, they are being budgeted by people who only greenlight these games if it benefits them. And that is the biggest tragedy, really. And that being said, it does save some stuff. Because I did not want another Dead Space after 3. They fucked 3 up. Dead Space needs a break, and it needs to come back hungry. Because just like Rocky, it lost that hunger, and it ended up getting beat by Mr. T. It's just not good enough. And I think a lot of games should do this. I think Assassin's Creed should fuck off. I really do. As hypocritical as it is, I don't mind Call of Duty because I find it really fun, and I still enjoy the multiplayer. So I don't mind the fact that they're pumping that out, because there's nothing that plays as well as that game, and it's the first person shooter of my choice, even though it does garner a lot of hatred. But same with Gears. Gears of War Judgment shouldn't exist. That game comes out this Friday, and I don't feel a thing. It's almost sad how little I feel towards that game. And it's not supposed to be this way, guys. Well, and I'm getting older now, so I suppose I'm not going to get as excited as I used to be, but I still get excited for games. I still feel that buzz in my stomach when a new game is coming and I'm really excited. And I don't have it. Because Gears of War 3 ended Gears. Gears should have gone on a break. We didn't need this. And no doubt the new game's probably going to be good. If it's bad, that might almost be just as good, because there's never been a bad Gears, in my opinion. There's been, you know, missteps and sections I've not enjoyed, but on a base level, they've all been solid. And it's just, I think it's sad. I really do. And it's not because they're bad games. I think it's because we've got to the point where, excuse me, we're so spoiled. We're almost like that fucking Sweet 16 bullshit. Or those super rich girls complaining that they're not getting a gold Hummer to drive them to this stupid party where P Daddy's going to sing and come out of a wedding cake and go back to doing nothing but letting his money gain interest over. It's got to be that we're just spoiled. It has to be. There's no other reason, because games now, they're so good and they're at such a level that, I don't know, we just don't have that same magic. And maybe the next generation's gonna, you know, revitalise that. Maybe the indie stuff's gonna do that, because they're the ones pushing the real boundaries. I mean, there's only so many boundaries you can push when it comes to putting a fucking cowl on a guy and changing the place that he stabs people in the back, or getting a guy an M16 from first person view and having a lot of chest high walls. It's interesting. It's very interesting, and I'm tempted to get overly analytical with it, but I'm just trying not to think. I don't know. What do you guys think? As I'm sat here doing all the talking. Do you think the magic's gone? Do you think we need a change? Do you think... I don't know. What fixes this problem? Because you know what doesn't fix this problem? Touch screens, touch pads, touch anything. If I wanted to touch something, you know, I'd be with my girlfriend. It's that fucking simple. When I play games, I like a pad. I like to be able to control my character, and I don't want the input to be the difficult part. I don't want to get arm fatigue when I'm playing Zelda. I don't want to smash things in my house when I'm playing fake tennis. It's just... Anybody play Mario Tennis on the... I think the GameCube had it. How good was that game? Did you miss the fact that you weren't swinging an imaginary racket? No, because you didn't need it. It was just PR bullshit that all the housewives bought. Thank you for watching, guys, and you take care now.